Greetings, my name is Andy. I make novels, poems, sculptures, and puppets. So this little guy is one of my favorite robots I've created, a mushroom bot, and today I want to make another one. For this version of my mushroom bot, I want to give him a top hat and a kind of eye patch monocle, with the idea that he's taken some damage while living at the end of the world. I'm going to start with some foil, then add some more foil, and some more. I'm building out the basic shape with a bump on the top of his head that will be the top hat. And I'll add some legs and feet. Since he doesn't have any thin arms or a thin neck, I don't need to use armature wire for this build. He's going to be all foil. And I'm happy with this shape, so let's put some clay on him. The first clay I'll be using is gray Super Sculpey Medium, so that I can use the gray color of the clay as his robot body rather than painting it. I've rolled out some sheets of clay with my pasta maker. I have a link for the pasta maker and all the tools and clays and paints I use down in the description. His head isn't quite big enough, so I bulk that out with some more foil. For his head, I'm going to use turquoise Sculpey Primo. I've got some sheets for my pasta maker, and now I'll start covering the head. It looks pretty ugly at this stage, but I'm happy with how the shape is coming together. I'll add some more clay to bulk out the robot's head and give it the shape I want. I've never made a sculpture this big without painting the whole thing. I'm experimenting today with using the gray and turquoise clays so that the base of the robot will be colored clay rather than painted clay. I'm going to leave the foil at the top for his top hat, which I'll make with gray clay. I'll be painting the top hat, and the turquoise clay is more expensive, so there's no need to use it on anything I'm just going to paint over. Here we can see that the new mushroom bot is a bit bigger, but looks pretty similar in shape. I really like how it's turning out. I'm going to keep bulking and smoothing out the head and the body. And I'm very happy with how that looks. I've decided that rather than adding buttons, levers, and gauges to his body, I'm going to have him wearing a vest to go with his top hat. I cut the basic shape out, then drape it over him and cut it to fit. I smooth out the edges of the vest. Now I cut out some lapels and add them on. I take the blade out of my X-Acto knife, leaving this end, which has a really cool texture on it. I'm going to roll the textured end over the vest, giving the vest a cloth-like texture. And now for some buttons. Here I'm adding a metal ring that separates his body from his mushroom neck, just a detail I made up for my other mushroom bots. I indent some grooves into the soles of his shoes. And what fancy vest and top hat combination would be complete without a bow tie? I cut out the bow tie from a sheet of clay. Then I add clay to the back like a spacer to make it pop out over the vest. Now for the square in the middle. And I use my rubber tool to push divots into the bow tie to give it a wrinkled cloth look. And I think that looks pretty cool. Now to work on the mushroom bot's eyes. First I cut out a rectangle, which is going to be a copper plate where one of his eyes is. I scour through an assortment of nuts to find one that's the right size for my new robot friend and press it into the metal plate. For his monocle eye patch, I'm going to roll a tube of gray clay, then cut a thin slice and affix it to his head. Now I use a ball stylus to create a large divot in the center. I cut a long thin strip of clay and use it to make a strap for the monocle that goes around his head. I use a smaller ball stylus to make little rivets in the metal plate, and tiny balls of clay to make larger rivets for the monocle. Now I want the top hat to be bigger, so I'm going to add some more foil. I cut out a large circle for the brim of the top hat, then cut a circle out of that and slide it over the foil. I cut out a rectangle of clay to make the body of the top hat. I add a little more foil into the top, then cut a circle for the top of the hat. Now I blend the pieces together and shape the hat, trying to make it look a bit old and beat up. It's the end of the world after all, and any top hat you find is going to be a little worse for wear. I cut a thin strip of clay for the band of the hat that will go around its base, and cut some notches out of the brim to show that the hat's been through some things, haven't we all? I cut a small rectangle to create a patch where the hat's been damaged and mended. Another tiny rectangle to add to the band. And I use my explorer tool to make little stitch indents into the patch. I take some turquoise clay, roll it up, and cut out little arms. After touching the robot up a bit, I sponge it down with some isopropyl alcohol to get rid of blemishes and fingerprints. Then I bake him and let him cool down. I'm really happy with how this guy turned out, so it's time to paint him. I'll be using folk art matte paints along with Artist Loft metallic paints for bronze and copper. Links to the paints and brushes I use are in the description. For the hat, I'm using the color Berry Wine. Then a darkened lavender for the hat band. Now I'm going to paint a few parts black that I want to use metallic paint on, because metallic paint looks way better over black paint. And now copper for the metal plate around his eye. Bronze for the monocle. Copper for the rivets, and bronze for the collar. Now brown for the monocle's strap. I use a lighter brown for the patch. For the monocle lens, I'm using a neon green. I like using very bright colors for the eyes to give the robots a sense of life, and a bright orange for the regular eye. And now I'm using Berry Wine again for the vest. Darkened lavender for the lapels, and orange for the bow tie. I decide to paint the bottoms of his feet bronze, so I'm going to paint them black first. And the tops of his feet will be turquoise to match his head and arms. Now to add the bronze. And lastly, his buttons. And he's done. I think using the gray and blue clays really worked out. I'm super happy with how he turned out. And he looks pretty cool with the other mushroom bots. As of making this video, all 4 are in my shop along with other sculptures and my novels. Thanks for checking out my video. Until next time.